Welcome to NTD News Today. Here are today's top stories. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy issuing a stern warning today, why he says Ukraine is facing one of the most difficult moments in its history.
Now Ukraine may find itself facing a very difficult choice, either the loss of dignity or the risk of losing a key partner.
President Trump is lifting a 40% tariff on Brazilian food products, including on beef, coffee, and cocoa. Details on the new executive order and how the market reacted. Growing attacks on Christians in Nigeria are drawing sharp U.S. warnings, sanctions, counter-terror help, even possible military action.
This is NTD News Today, live from our global headquarters in New York City.
President Trump and New York Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani are set to meet at the White House today. Here's what the press secretary had to say about the meeting.
It speaks volumes that tomorrow we have a communist coming to the White House because that's who the Democrat Party elected as the mayor of the largest city in the country. I think it's very telling, but I also think it speaks to the fact that President Trump is willing to meet with anyone and talk to anyone and to try to do what's right on behalf of the American people.
President Trump confirmed the meeting via a Truth Social post. Mamdani has already sparred publicly with Trump, who has threatened to reduce federal funding to the city. The mayor-elect described the meeting as customary at a press conference yesterday. He also said his team arranged the meeting. Mamdani and Trump are both from Queens and have spent months publicly criticizing each other. Trump has repeatedly called Mamdani a communist due to his professed affinity for democratic socialism and threatened to withhold federal funds from the city's government if Mamdani seeks to implement some of his campaign promises. Mamdani has attacked Trump's initiatives during his second term, including his effort to remove illegal immigrants from the United States. And during an interview at the Brian Kilmeade show on Fox Radio this morning, President Trump says his meeting with Mamdani this afternoon will be open to the press. And with us now on everything we can expect from today's meeting is political strategist and attorney Gerard Filitti. Gerard, great to see you. Good morning. Thanks for coming on. Gerard, it seems like the ICE operations and the removal of illegal immigrants from New York City will be front and center today. Here's Trump's border czar Tom Homan just this week.
New York City, I plan on being in New York City in the near future. We're going to do operations in New York City. We know in New York City, me and Mayor Adams at one point had an agreement to let ICE into Rikers Island so we can arrest the public safety threats and the safety and security of that facility, but the city council shut it down.
So, Gerard, the city's current mayor, Eric Adams, was cooperating with ICE to some extent. How much does ICE need the city's support, and is it likely to get it under Mamdani?
It's always beneficial for ICE to have a city's support. That way it can do its job more efficiently and without the protests that we've seen in cities across the country. Unfortunately, I don't think that we will see any cooperation from Mayor-elect Mamdani. He has explicitly said that he does not endorse or will not help with any type of immigration crackdown. So I think we will see ICE, we will see the Department of Homeland Security come and be more involved in New York City, but without the cooperation of the city.
We saw post-election, Mamdani was asked about his message to ICE. Here's what he said.
My message to ICE agents and to everyone across this city is that everyone will be held to the same standard of the law. If you violate the law, you must be held accountable. And there is sadly a sense that is growing across this country that certain people are allowed to violate that law, whether they be the president or whether they be the agents themselves.
George, you may remember before the election, Mamdani said he won't allow ICE agents into New York City schools or businesses without a warrant signed by a judge. Does Mamdani have the power to do that, and will that stifle the Trump administration?
First, it's good to ironic that he is saying that some people are getting away with not following the law, when exactly that is the issue with illegal immigrations. They are not following the law and are in this country illegally, yet that is the group that Mamdani is looking to support and protect from enforcement. What Mamdani can do is he can instruct city organizations, city officials, city employees not to cooperate without a warrant or without a judicial determination. But at the end of the day, he cannot stop, he cannot prevent federal agents from enforcing federal immigration law. So he can speak all he wants and not cooperate, but he cannot actively protect people by obstructing justice. That would expose him to criminal liability.
It seems to have irked the president somewhat. The president has threatened to cut federal funding to the city. It seems like he may have some leverage. Here's a look at some of the major federally supported projects that are ongoing in New York City. We have an overhaul of Penn Station. We have the Gateway Tunnel between New York and New Jersey, and the 2nd Avenue subway. And Gerard, as Trump put it to President Zelenskyy of Ukraine a while back, who's holding the cards here when it comes to funding and policy?
Well, there is significant power that President Trump has over this federal funding that is going to New York City. And if Mamdani wants to have the cooperation of the federal government, then he cannot just refuse and obstruct everything that President Trump wants, especially in terms of law enforcement. And we have to remember, Mamdani is in a bit of a bind because all of the free programs that he's offered to his voters need to be paid for somehow. And if he doesn't have the funds to pay for infrastructure projects or to keep New York City running as it currently is, where is he going to come up with the money for these new funds, for these new ideas? So Mamdani has to show that he can actually govern, and that means compromising with President Trump and with Albany, not just saying that he will only do what he wants to do.
Well, on that topic of cooperating and finding common ground, Mamdani said he'll meet with anyone to fix what he called the cost of living problem in New York City. This is a major issue for Trump, too. So is there room for cooperation here, or are the political ideologies too far apart?
There's always room for political cooperation, especially when you're looking at housing and how new housing is built, whether regulations are too tight and need to be loosened a little to allow builders, to allow developers to come in with new projects and make housing more affordable. That's something that the president and Mayor-elect Mamdani can cooperate on. But at the end of the day, they have starkly different views of the economy. Mamdani seems to think that he can pay for everything by taxing people more, but the reality is that that doesn't work. When you tax people more, they leave, and then you're even in worse financial situations than you already are. So there is room for the government to work together, but Mamdani's overall vision of socialism is not something that is economically viable in New York City.
Do you feel that Mamdani has promised to, as he called it, tax the rich, tax the millionaires? Do you see Trump potentially looking to step in there and prevent tax increases on the wealthy in New York City?
Well, it's very hard for Mamdani to unilaterally increase taxes. In fact, he can't do it. He needs either the city council, but more realistically, he needs the state of New York to agree to increase taxes. He cannot just do it alone. Whether President Trump steps in or not, he doesn't really need to at this point anyway, because Mamdani has a high threshold to meet in order to successfully get higher taxes imposed. That's not something he can just do with the signature of his pen. So President Trump has a lot of cards here to play, but so does Albany and so do taxpayers, quite frankly.
Do you think Trump's major concern is immigration over anything else?
I think Trump's major concern is safety, is public safety and affordability in New York City. And public safety we have all seen going downhill over the last few years, especially with nonstop protests and riots. There was even a protest this week in front of a synagogue that Mayor-elect Mamdani supported. He found no problem with people voicing their concern or their objection. They're protesting Jews going to a synagogue to pray. So I think with President Trump, he's looking at public safety in New York and saying that more needs to be done, whether it's enforcing a crackdown on illegal immigration or law and order, having National Guard come in. But also at the same time, New York City needs to be made more affordable, and that's not going to happen if you increase taxes and drive away businesses and property owners and taxpayers.
So we're talking cost of living. They're on the same page in this. Mamdani has said, although you've raised a couple of points here with protests, that public safety is something he's concerned about, he's looking at. Do you feel that conservative fears about Mamdani are justified or overblown?
I think there's reason to be suspicious about what Mamdani will do when he's actually in office. Now that he's won and he is the mayor-elect, he is still not showing that he has a grasp of reality and how to govern. He still seems to be campaigning and using slogans instead of actual messaging and explaining how he will implement his ideas. So there is a cause by all New Yorkers to be concerned, quite frankly, that he has overpromised and he's continuing to use rhetoric that's divisive instead of coming up with actual ways to implement his many ideas.
George Validi, I'm sure you'll be watching the meeting later today. We'll have you back for your assessment. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I'm sure we'll see fireworks today.
And the House of Representatives voted on a resolution today to denounce socialism. Lawmakers made the case against the political and economic system, with Florida Representative Maria Elvira Salazar introducing the resolution.
The reason why we're introducing this resolution is to condemn the horrors of socialism, and I'm presenting just the facts. And I invite my colleagues on the other side to vote to condemn this nefarious ideology. This has nothing to do with political parties. This is not a Democratic issue. This is not a Republican issue. This is a moral vote against an ideology that has destroyed millions and millions of families. Many of them, I serve those families in District Number 27, the heart of the city of Miami, the heart of the Cuban exile community, and now the Venezuelan community, and murdered more than 100 million lives, besides crushing hundreds of thousands of other families and individuals. Unfortunately, socialism and Marxism crushes the human soul.
Salazar also took to X this week ahead of today's vote. The Republican posted in part, quote, "Socialism has never produced freedom or prosperity, only suffering and authoritarian control." The lawmaker added, quote, "With this failed ideology gaining ground in the United States and throughout the hemisphere, I'm proud to lead this resolution and call out its dangers without hesitation." The House approved the resolution by a vote of 285 to 98, with 2 lawmakers voting present. Global coffee prices plunged today after President Trump rolled back 40% tariffs on Brazilian food products after signing an executive order yesterday. Arabica coffee futures slumping more than 4% this morning to around $3.6 per pound. They were previously down more than 6%, a 2-month low. Trump cited various officials from whom he said advised him to lift the tariffs, in part because of progress the U.S. has made in trade negotiations with Brazil. Here's more on the story.
President Donald Trump on Thursday removed his 40% tariffs on Brazilian food products. That includes levies on beef, coffee, and fruits that were imposed in July. The order will affect Brazilian imports to the U.S. on or after November 13 and may also require a refund of the duties collected on those goods while the tariffs were still being charged, according to the text of the order released by the White House. The move follows a similar order by the administration last Friday to remove tariffs on several agricultural products from other countries. Brazil has recently become an important supplier of beef to the U.S. and normally supplies a third of the coffee used in the country. Retail coffee prices in the U.S., the world's largest coffee drinker, rose as much as 40% this year due to the tariffs and other market factors. Brazil's President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva welcomed the removal of the tariffs.
Today, I am happy because President Trump has already begun to reduce some of the tariffs that had been imposed on certain Brazilian products.
And the Congressional Budget Office now projects President Trump's global tariffs will save the U.S. $1 trillion less than previously estimated. The report shows changing tariff rates, especially changes involving China, India, and the European Union and Japan, are responsible for most of the downward revision. Even with the downgrade, the CBO says tariffs would still cut deficits by $2.5 trillion over 11 years and lower borrowing costs by another $500 billion. But the long-term future of Trump's tariff authority now hinges on a Supreme Court case that could upend the policy completely. Birthright citizenship is under scrutiny today. The Supreme Court will meet in private to discuss President Trump's order on the topic. The measure said kids born to parents who are in the country illegally or temporarily are not U.S. citizens. The justices could say as soon as Monday whether they will hear Trump's appeal of lower court rulings that have struck down the citizenship restrictions. They have not taken effect anywhere in the United States. If the court steps in now, the case would be argued in the spring, with the definitive ruling expected by early summer. The 14th Amendment states all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States. The Trump administration argues that children of illegal immigrants are not subject to the jurisdiction of the United States as they are not there legally and therefore not entitled to citizenship. And a federal judge yesterday ordered the Trump administration to end its National Guard deployment in Washington, D.C. The ruling won't take effect immediately as the judge put it on hold until December 11th to allow for an appeal. D.C. Attorney General Brian Schwalb sued the administration over the deployment back in September, calling it, quote, a parallel police force. The Justice Department then asked to dismiss the case, saying the troops were not involved in arresting and charging people. As of now, more than 2,000 National Guard troops are still in the city. In response to the ruling, White House spokeswoman Abigail Jackson called the lawsuit, quote, another attempt at the detriment of D.C. residents to undermine the president's highly successful operations to stop violent crime in D.C. And now to some financial news. The Treasury Department is moving against illegal immigrants getting tax credit benefits. It says new regulations are on the way. The rules will cover the refund portions of certain income tax credits, like the Earned Income Tax Credit or Additional Child Tax Credit. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said the Trump administration is enforcing the law and preventing illegal immigrants from claiming tax benefits intended for American citizens. The NYU Tax Law Center disagrees with the move. It says the tax code allows the child tax credit to be claimed for citizen children as long as at least one parent has a social security number. And a police officer at Lambert International Airport in St. Louis fatally shot a man wielding a knife early this morning. Authorities said the shooting took place outside the doors of a terminal. The rail line to Terminal 1 was briefly closed, with shuttles then taking people from other drop-off points. The airport remained open. The St. Louis County Police spokesperson said officers had noticed the man in a restricted area who refused to leave. Spokesperson said the individual brandished a knife when they tried to get him to move. Police used tasers, but he continued to advance forward toward the officers. That was when one officer shot and killed the individual when he refused to stop. Incredible. A U.S. Congressman from California, Eric Swalwell, is running for governor in 2026. He revealed the news yesterday during an appearance on Jimmy Kimmel Live. The longtime critic of President Trump says California needs a, quote, fighter and protector, pointing to his background as a prosecutor. He said the next governor must keep Trump out of California's lives while focusing on lowering prices and boosting business growth. Swalwell joins a crowded field of high-profile Democrats and Republicans vying to replace Governor Gavin Newsom, who is term limited. And in an effort to lower rising energy costs, the Trump administration plans to open up oil drilling off coasts of several states. It comes as Republicans in Congress are repealing several Biden-era policies. And NTD's Melina Weiskup has more.
Amid rising energy costs, Republicans are working to open up domestic production to lower costs. Yesterday, the Trump administration proposed the largest expansion of offshore oil drilling in decades. The plan is to open federal waters near California, Florida, and Alaska. It comes after lawmakers this week rolled back several Biden-era energy policies, putting Democrats and Republicans at odds.
And the entire world is talking about how to phase down our dependence on coal pollution and fossil fuel pollution. We are here in this alternate reality of the Republican majority.
Under the Biden administration, we were not allowed to access those important resources for the American people. In fact,
in the Senate yesterday, lawmakers repealed a Biden-era coal regulation in Wyoming.
Shuttering U.S. coal doesn't help the planet. It outsources pollution to the worst polluters on Earth and sends American jobs straight overseas.
The bill passed along party lines and is now awaiting President Trump's signature. Reporting from Washington, D.C., Melina Weiskup, NTD News.
And now to Nigeria and the ongoing persecution of Christians. The State Department says the U.S. is calling on the Nigerian government to better protect Christian communities and religious freedom. NTD's Daniel Monahan reports on actions being considered, such as sanctions and Pentagon engagement on counter-terrorism.
Nigeria is under scrutiny. President Trump earlier this month threatened military action over the treatment of Christians in the country. At a House Foreign Affairs Committee hearing yesterday, Congressman Chris Smith brought up a June massacre in Nigeria,
where 278 persons, men, women, and children were killed in a manner too gory to describe here by people shouting Allah Akbar while slaughtering their victims.
Representative John James says such incidents are not isolated tragedies,
but a sustained pattern of religiously motivated violence, often ignored or even enabled by the Nigerian government.
James says Nigeria has become the deadliest place on earth to be a Christian, with nearly 17,000 killed since 2019.
President Trump not only designated Nigeria as a country of particular concern during his first term, but redesignated it again in his second term after President Biden inexplicably removed that designation.
The State Department yesterday said the Trump administration is developing a plan to incentivize and compel the Nigerian government to better protect Christian communities and improve religious freedom.
This plan will consider U.S. state and Treasury engagement on sanctions, as well as possible Department of War engagement on counterterrorism and other efforts to protect religious communities.
A Nigerian bishop yesterday thanked President Trump for designating Nigeria a country of particular concern, telling lawmakers the move had drawn urgent attention to worsening violence against Christians.
Nigeria remains the deadliest place on earth to be a Christian. More believers are killed there annually than in the rest of the world combined.
Trump asked the Defense Department last month to prepare for possible fast military action in Nigeria if it fails to crack down on the killing of Christians. Trump also said he was immediately stopping all aid and assistance to Nigeria, Africa's most populous nation and top oil producer.
President Trump's bold action on the CPC designation was an important step. It's gotten their attention in the Nigerian government, but we need to do a lot more.
The extremist Islamist armed group Boko Haram has terrorized northeastern Nigeria, killing tens of thousands of people over the past 15 years. Gunmen attacked a church in Nigeria on Tuesday, killing at least 2 people and kidnapping the pastor and some worshippers. This comes just days after 25 girls were abducted from a boarding school. Daniel Monahan, NTD News.
I'm Paul Grady. This is World Watch. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy voicing his opinion on a U.S.-drafted peace plan. Zelenskyy suggesting ending the war with Russia will come at a cost in any of the current scenarios. The American plan calls for Ukraine to cede territory currently occupied by Russian forces.
Now, Ukraine may find itself facing a very difficult choice, either the loss of dignity or the risk of losing a key partner, either the difficult 28 points or an extremely difficult winter, the most difficult and further risks.
Zelenskyy added that Ukraine aims to keep working with the U.S. to find a solution for all parties involved. The Kremlin, meanwhile, is still insisting that Russia hasn't received any detailed plan from the U.S. White House officials confirming the details of the 28-point plan, with multiple outlets now reporting on it. But according to the Kremlin, Moscow hasn't received the details yet, while adding that Russia is open to peace talks. And here's a closer look at what's in the draft of the U.S.-backed peace plan for Ukraine. Under the 28-point framework, Ukraine would receive firm security guarantees, while its armed forces would be capped at 600,000. The country would formally pledge not to join NATO. In return, NATO would codify that it will never admit Ukraine or station any troops there. The proposal includes major redevelopment funding and the restart of a nuclear power plant under IAEA oversight. It also includes phased sanction relief to reintegrate Russia into the global economy. It also outlines territorial arrangements, recognize Crimea, Luhansk, and Donetsk as de facto Russian, and also other areas frozen at the current lines. Now, the arrangement will be legally binding, monitored by a new board of peace chaired by President Trump. An immediate ceasefire would take effect once all sides sign on. And an Indian fighter jet crashed at the Dubai Air Show during an aerial display today, killing the pilot. Eyewitness video shows the aircraft losing altitude mid-flight and rapidly descending before crashing into a huge fireball. Footage shows thick black smoke rising from behind a fenced airstrip, with Dubai's government sharing a photograph of firefighting teams dousing this smoldering wreckage. The crash happened during the last day of the air show, the Middle East's largest aviation event. And Japanese Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi commenting on the recent conflict with China, she insisted there were no changes within her government's definition of an existential threat, which triggered tensions between Japan and China.
What becomes an existential threat depends on individual cases and its situation. The Japanese government will make a general judgment based on all the information. Since Japan enacted the legislation for peace and security under Prime Minister Abe, we have been repeatedly explaining this fact, and so have I. The government's position has been consistent.
Now, Japan's foreign minister says the government is willing to continue necessary interactions with China while observing the situation calmly. The conflict has spilled over into other areas. About a dozen concerts with Japanese musicians in major Chinese cities were abruptly cancelled this week, and music venues across China were warned by authorities that concerts with Japanese musicians for the remainder of the year may be cancelled. Also, Chinese cruise operators are scrambling to avoid Japanese ports as Beijing and Tokyo engage in that diplomatic dispute. And over on Capitol Hill yesterday, lawmakers exposed the Chinese Communist Party's attacks on religious freedom, emphasizing why the regime's actions pose a threat to Americans. One witness urged U.S. leaders to handle the issue as a matter of national security. NTD's Melina Weiskup has the highlights.
The CCP fears the power of faith because it is a source of values and moral authority it cannot control.
In search of global dominance, the Chinese Communist Party has sought to deprive people of their own spiritual consciousness. Witnesses at today's hearing expressed why this strikes at the heart of American values and threatens U.S. world leadership.
Their intimidation and surveillance of individuals in the U.S. is a direct assault on U.S. rule of law.
America being able to defend its value abroad also shows America's strength, and if it's not able to defend something that is so critical and so core to American values, then they see that as weakness.
While the attack on faith has been present since the CCP's inception, the severity has only worsened over time. In 2022, Chinese leader Xi Jinping escalated attempts to eradicate the meditation discipline Falun Dafa, also known as Falun Gong, with a special focus on the United States.
The Chinese Communist Party fears Falun Gong more than anybody. Much more fearful of that, as I said, than of our aircraft carriers or nuclear weapons. They fear their own people. Well, why? Well, because they are afraid of losing control. They're not acting like a confident country. I think we should do the following: recognize a genocide against the Falun Gong being done by the Chinese government. They have sought to wipe them out.
The Falun Infocenter reports that the regime is attempting to change public opinion and turn U.S. institutions against Falun Dafa through carrying out nearly 200 violent threats against its adherents, not limited to Chinese diaspora. Attacks have gone so far as CCP proxies attempting to weaponize the U.S. legal system to target a U.S.-based dance company by the name of Shin Yun. It was founded by Falun Dafa practitioners to expose the persecution and to revive traditional Chinese culture. I asked the chairman of the commission, as well as witnesses, what's at stake if Americans don't take this threat seriously.
95% of Americans would find that offensive. Wait, you got communist Chinese intimidating American citizens over Xi Jinping wanting to shut down religion? Here, every human being has in his heart or her heart a sense of freedom, human dignity. If they want to practice religion, you hear about how many Christians are in China? I didn't know it was that big of a number. And that is something that these dictators fear.
And they oppress it, and they oppress it aggressively.
with billions of dollars that they spent in the most high-tech surveillance systems the world has ever seen. So if they're so scared of religion, we should be backing it. We will change China, or China will change the world. And that's the level and scale of battle we're at now.
Ambassador Brownback is urging U.S. leaders to treat this as a matter of national security and to use tools like economic sanctions to fight for spiritual freedom. Reporting from Washington, D.C., Melina Weiskup, NTD News.
Details are emerging about the deadly UPS cargo plane crash earlier this month. Federal investigators have released new images showing how the jet engine lost its left engine just seconds after takeoff from Louisville. Here's the story.
The National Transportation Safety Board has released a preliminary report on the crash at Louisville Mohammed Ali International Airport on November 4th. It details the moments before an engine detached from the wing on UPS Flight 2976 during takeoff. According to the report, surveillance footage confirms the McDonnell Douglas's left engine and pylon broke away just as the plane was taking off. This ignited a fire in the engine, which spread across the aircraft's wing. A former NTSB investigator explains what happened.
The first image shows the airplane basically under a normal condition. Engines are in their proper position. Airplane is rotated into a climb attitude. The subsequent frames show the engine starting to separate from the left side. That separation, the motor mount broke, and unfortunately the engine propelled itself over the top of the left wing, created a fireball.
Radio altitude data shows the aircraft reached no more than 30 feet off the ground before striking buildings just outside the airport perimeter. 14 people were killed, 3 UPS crew members, and 11 people on the ground, with more than 20 others injured. Early examinations showed fatigue cracking in the left engine's aft pylon mount, a critical point where the engine attaches to the wing. The NTSB Materials Lab later confirmed multiple fracture points.
The NTSB is focusing on the engine pylon. That is what mates the engine to the wing itself. And they're looking at the aft portion of that engine pylon where fatigue cracks were identified, but it also can incorporate the forward portion of that engine pylon. So they'll be looking to determine whether or not those fatigue cracks were an isolated event or they have basically the basis for a systemic problem.
Investigators noted the plane had not yet flown enough cycles to warrant special detailed inspections of that particular part, which might have revealed the problem. UPS and FedEx grounded their entire MD-11 fleet in the days after the crash. The Federal Aviation Administration also issued directives that temporarily grounded the MD-11 and another plane with a similar design. The NTSB also noted similarities to the 1979 American Airlines Flight 191 disaster, where the same type of structural failure caused a deadly crash in Chicago. The agency says its investigation into the crash is still ongoing.
And New Jersey could be the site of an abortion clinic specializing in third trimester abortions. The move has sparked concern among many about such late-term procedures done up to just a few weeks before birth. NTD's Daniel Monahan spoke with an attorney and pregnancy care CEO about the case.
Founded by Kristen Brandy and Catherine Obando, Luminosas Wellness Collective hopes to bring third trimester abortions to Hudson County, New Jersey, starting in 2026. They say the facility will be rooted in what they call reproductive justice and also provide cross-sex procedures for trans-identifying people. A 2023 Gallup poll showed that 70% of people oppose abortion being legal in the third trimester. 55% oppose it in the second trimester. Boynton Lee Gilmore of Patient Forward said the reasons for such late-term abortions can include losing a job, breaking up with a partner, or health problems with the fetus or parent. The third trimester begins at 27 weeks.
At 27 weeks, her eyes are responding to light. She can recognize her parents' voices and will even recognize lullabies and stories.
And continues up until birth.
Olivia has gone on an amazing journey during these last 9 months. She will soon signal to her mother that it is time for delivery.
Third trimester abortions are surgical techniques that involve crushing, dismemberment, and removal of a baby from a woman's uterus.
After the Dobbs decision in 2022, the governor signed into law a law in New Jersey that really leaves it quite open for these late-term abortions.
Supreme Court litigation chief Erin Mercino says the Safe Haven Act in New Jersey allows women in a tough situation to drop off a baby at certain public locations.
Where women are able to take babies into an emergency room, no questions asked, leave at a fire station, police station, after having the baby, and the baby would then be put up for adoption. And again, no questions asked.
Mercino, herself a mother of 5, says no woman has abortion as the only option.
There's choosing life, there's choosing adoption, there's choosing to raise the child yourself, there's hope, there's clinics out there, there's so many really selfless people wanting to help, wanting to give their hand and pick women up in these difficult circumstances and walk with them. No one has to be alone. There's love and hope.
Brandy Swindell is the founder and CEO of Stanton Healthcare International, whose clinics provide life-affirming medical care and wellness support to those facing unexpected pregnancies.
We also do well woman care, well woman exams, STD testing and treatment, prenatal and postnatal education and classes, wellness care, massage therapy.
All services are free of charge.
So if a woman walks through our doors and she needs assistance with housing, we're going to be able to find her safe housing. If a woman walks through our doors and she needs help getting her GED, we're going to help her with that. If she needs help finding a job, maybe even working on putting together a resume, all those types of things we can help her with.
Swindell says a large number of women are forced or pressured into an unwanted abortion, which she calls abortion abuse.
So women are being pressured by a boyfriend, a husband, the father of the baby, parents, an employer, someone they trust, usually is what women say, into getting an abortion that they really don't want to have.
Jamie says she was pressured by a partner who told her she couldn't manage a baby. She went to Planned Parenthood. After taking the abortion pill, she knew she'd made a terrible mistake.
I felt this life just escaping me. Like, I felt it so deeply. And I was like, I have to do something about it. Please, anybody, my family, people who love me, God, somebody, like, please get me through this. Please give me another chance to make this right.
Jamie, desperate, called her sister, who told her about Stanton Healthcare, where they do abortion pill reversal.
I filled out some paperwork and they were like, let's go check on that baby. And when I saw his heart still beating for the first time, and he was okay.
The abortion pill reversal process involves an influx of natural progesterone after the first pill of a chemical abortion, mifepristone, is taken. NTD reached out to Luminosos Wellness Collective for comment, but they didn't respond. Daniel Monahan, NTD News.
The documentary film Age of Disclosure is being released today. It includes interviews with high-level government officials and some others about what it calls a global cover-up of alien encounters.
This is so secret. Very, very few people in our entire government have been allowed access to it.
Even presidents have been operating on a need-to-know basis, but that begins to ramp out of control.
It's not acceptable to have secret parts of government that no one ever sees.
You better be careful about a government that doesn't trust its people, because there's no telling what they'll pull on you.
The movie explores what it calls an 80-year global cover-up of alien existence, and that world powers are in a race to reverse engineer alien technology. The movie includes 34 U.S. government, military, and intelligence personnel interviews. The documentary's director, Dan Farah, spoke on Fox News. He said every person he spoke to made it clear this was a real situation. In the movie's trailer, Secretary Rubio says there have been multiple times something was detected in the airspace above nuclear facilities and suggested it's not of human origin. Farah said President Trump could be the first president ever to speak openly about the situation. And we'll keep you updated. And holiday season is upon us again, and once again, Macy's flagship store in New York City has been transformed inside and out. NTD's Sean Marshall was at an early showing of Macy's world-famous window display and the 8th floor Santaland. Let's take a look.
Hey, Merry Christmas and welcome to the North Pole.
So I got a sneak peek of Santaland, and we have Santa here ahead of the public, most of the public.
Well, hello, it's Sean,
How's it going?
right?
It is Sean. I can't believe you knew my name.
I remember when you were little.
Interesting.
Are you excited about Christmas?
Of course I'm excited.
We all are. I want all of the boys and girls to come to see me. We know that if you want to see Santa, come to Macy's, right?
But we'll come back to Old St. Nick and the sneak preview of Santaland, New York City in a bit. Because Thursday afternoon was the unveiling of the world-famous Macy's Christmas Windows display. People packed into Herald Square in Midtown Manhattan for a Macy's tradition, and NTD got to speak with the display designer.
Well, it really started with the theme, and our theme this year is the most wonderful stories start here. And what better way to show the most wonderful stories that started in Macy's than to celebrate them within our windows. So we have the time periods of our first, starting from our first interior Santa, our first holiday windows, our first Thanksgiving parade, and so on.
A couple of windows are interactive, making the display fun and entertaining for the public. Any surprises in any of the windows?
I think every window is a little different. So it's, when you see it, all these windows are hand illustrated, so they're all hand drawn. All the line work that you see here took hundreds and hundreds of hours in each window to do. So, I mean, as you take a look at the detail, everything is done by hand.
So this is Wally, our walrus. We're trying to get him ready to work in the mailroom. He's been a little slobbery and a couple punctures with the tusks, but overall doing a lot better than yesterday. So making progress, Wally. Yeah, don't give me that look.
Santa has been visiting Macy's since the 1860s, giving children and adults a chance to experience the holiday spirit. Santa is very popular, so you'll have to make a reservation to visit him at select Macy's locations.
So Macy's Santaland has been a part of the tradition here at Macy's since 1861, and we're so excited to invite families back again this holiday season, starting on Friday, November 28th through December 24th. You can come and see us in this magical land right here at Macy's. Make your reservation at macys.com/holiday celebrations and come meet Santa Claus.
And are there any insider tips for kids or grown-ups coming in here?
I think the best tip is make your reservation in advance. So reservations open up throughout the holiday season, 6 days in advance of your visit. We open up reservations bright and early in the morning, so 6:30 a.m. local time. You can log on to macys.com/holiday celebrations to make that reservation for your group to come and make sure that they have a spot to meet Santa himself.
Luckily, I didn't have to make a reservation. It seems Santa already knew NTD was coming to Santaland.
Do you have a special Christmas wish? Because Christmas is not just for the children, it's for everybody, Sean. What would you like?
Why, I didn't think about that. I guess I'd probably wish for NTD News to be the #1 news company.
That's a good wish.
Sean Marshall, NTD News.
And let's hope that Sean's wish can come true this year. And in Kansas City, nonprofits and local businesses are working to provide a Thanksgiving turkey to families in need. This holiday season, the community and its spirit of giving are helping put food on the table. NTD's Andrew Thomas has more on their efforts.
The Kansas City chapter of Slow Food USA is stepping up for Thanksgiving. Founder Jasper Mirabelle Jr. was happy to make a donation to buy turkeys for locals in need.
So we donated $5,000 and Max secured 300 turkeys for those who are going to need it, who are going to have a turkey on their plate this Thanksgiving. Doesn't get any better. Makes you feel good.
The donation went to Canby's Markets, which purchased the turkeys from a Kansas City-based grocer that was willing to help out. Canby founder Maxfield Kaniger said the establishment was quick to join the effort.
He was able to get us 300 turkeys without breaking a sweat, and I loved his response was actually, how many do you need? And I said, how many can I get? And he's like, however many you need, I will make work. And that's the kind of response you love to see.
Kaniger says his organization has been distributing tons of food, literally. Being able to provide Thanksgiving birds has made the effort even more rewarding.
We've been averaging about 10,000 pounds of food a day going out to different local organizations. And to be able to add these turkeys into the mix really is wonderful.
Andrew Thomas, NTD News.